This episode of the Barclay Street podcast is presented by the Victorian Responsible Gambling Foundation, a proud partner of the Bulldogs. Join us in helping kids understand the importance of loving the game, not the odds. For tips on talking to your kids about the risks of sports betting, visit lovethegame.vic.gov.au. Hello and welcome to the Grand Final edition of Barclay Street. It's an honour and a privilege to be here with you in the chair alongside my great mate and one of the great Bulldogs is Easton Wood. Easton, on the eve of your second Grand Final, how are you, my dear friend?
Great, mate. It's still honestly still a bit surreal that we're into another one. It's been they're always like the last one was incredibly special and it felt surreal leading into it, and this one's no different. I kind of keep pinching myself and waking up and going, oh yeah, that's right, we're playing in a Grand Final on Saturday. God,
has it so the fact that you've been here before, does it feel like this is a path I know well, or does it almost feel like a complete separate entity of it's in a totally new experience?
Complete separate entity.
Wow.
But there are similarities in the way that, I mean, with 16, with that, we lose our last game of the round of the home and away season, and we have that week off, and I think we lost to Fremantle, your mob.
I thought we were putting the swords down today, but that was a lovely little jab.
It just felt right. It just popped up, you know.
I almost feel proud of you. I feel a strange sense of pride that I kind of taught you that move. Well done. Well done,
straight out of your playbook. But anyway. But I mean, we lost that game, and then it was evident that we had the week off, but we had to go back over to Perth to play West Coast, who at that point in time were a much better team than that Fremantle team that we lost to, and it didn't look. The odds were against us, and we obviously proved them wrong throughout that entire campaign. I suppose it's been similar in that we finished the year disappointingly, losing those 3 games in a row, lose our top 4 spot. And we've had to fight tooth and nail and go through some ridiculous travel and quarantine and just stuff that you have to sit back and laugh at. Otherwise, you'd be getting quite emotional and angry at times. But I mean, there's similarities there, but it does feel very different to me. It does feel very different to 16.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so on the one hand, it's 5 years, and then of course,
5 years.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of wild, isn't it? 5 years.
Yeah.
I know. I'm glad.
I feel like my time, like when that was such a formative moment particularly in my life, that I feel like now I just assume that I'm always 26, and that was when I think about myself, that's who I think about. Like,
don't worry.
I think for the rest of my life, I'm going to be that 26-year-old.
Yeah. The amount of times someone's asked me how old am I, and my instinct is to say 32. I'm about to say 32, and I'm like, hang on, let me just check that and go, 39. What happened? In terms of, so it's 5 years, but just think of the different landscape. So this time 5 years ago, you would have been training to that packed Whitten Oval. I mean, there was close to 10,000 people at the Whitten Oval, pandemonium, the parade in the city. The build-up was, so electric. So now this year, today you're in WA in a quarantine of sorts, in neutral territory against Melbourne. In some ways, it couldn't be more different. So do you think that's playing a part in the fact that it feels like a completely new experience?
Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be, a huge part of it. I mean, we've almost been away for a month now, away from family, away from friends, away from our supporters. That's a huge part of it, and just living in this strange world of quarantine. And but it's been great in terms of how much time we've spent together as a group. That's been wonderful. We've just been enjoying each other's company this longer lead in, and particularly when we got back to Perth for these 2 weeks, it was the first time we felt settled, because we kind of knew what was happening, what was ahead of it. And it was the first time I got to really unpack. Just feel a bit, a bit more grounded and exactly. So that was that's been a nice lead in for Saturday.
Is there a natural energy to it as well? I mean, of course, you're in a grand final. Of course, you're going to be energized by that. But just the fact that the mission is almost over. Like, all chips are on the table Saturday. It's just the end. The road is there, and you can kind of step away.
100%. And like, getting to this point, I mean, you're coming off, because we've had to do it the hard way from fifth. We're coming off 3 straight wins, so that momentum and that positivity and the energy and the confidence that brings, is you're coming off such great performances, which, as we've always talked about momentum and how important that is. Like, that's a huge part of it. And then just the beautiful timing of the final series and grand finals means it's coming into spring, and particularly here in Perth, the weather is just sublime. That's always gives you a natural energy to it as well, just being warm and having the sun out. It feels like finals, and there's just that natural buzz already. But as you said, we're in a grand final, that produces natural energy anyway.
How's training been? I haven't sort of seen much of it. Sort of working while the news, the TV news is on. But has there been crowds at training? What's that
No, not like? Yet. No crowds yet at training. We've been training at the Eagles facility, which is an unbelievable facility, but mind you, an incredible looking place. We haven't been in it. We've just been training on the ground outside it. But all we've had there is the media on the fence outside, trying to take pictures and film through the fence, which is a bit strange with the quarantine stuff. But yesterday we got to have our main session on Optus, which was special. As you know, I've only trained a couple of times on a ground we actually play at, leading into a game, and so that's always special. But there was no one there. But what I think they're planning for our captain's run on Friday is that there's going to be, I think, upwards of 20 to 30,000 people there for the captain's run at Optus. So
shock to the system.
So I think that'll probably be the first moment, as you mentioned. We haven't had the fanfare and obviously you understand and you feel the gravity of a grand final, but we haven't had that kind of energy in the that crazy outpouring of support in that physical sense. So it'll be nice to kind of have that on Friday leading into the game.
What kind of insight can you give us into how the group's feeling? I mean, obviously it's a positive feeling. You're in a grand final, you've won 3 in a row. But is there any kind of insight you can give us to this particular team and this group and what the vibe's like?
Yeah, there is. I mean, this is probably, of all the groups I've been a part of, this is the group that I feel like is the most similar to each other, as in we obviously have a diverse group, but the spectrum of different personalities is much closer together. Obviously, in different groups we played with, which you've been a part of, they've been incredibly diverse, and there's been some very, very interesting characters at either end that often would really clash at times. Been part of plenty of those, and this group's unique in the way that I feel like, as a collective, we're so much closer together in terms of our shared beliefs and the way that we kind of go about things. So, which has been remarkably I think, beneficial in terms of what we're going through at the moment of the being away for a month, away from home, under pressure of quarantine rules, away from family, away from all that kind of stuff, and a real an environment that can create a fair amount of angst and stress. And you think of the guys that are going through all that and aren't a part of the team, who are on the fringe, or not really a chance to play. And those guys have been bringing such incredible energy to their training sessions, and to the main group sessions that help driving us and give us momentum and give us energy, and really be here. And we're not training to get through sessions; we're training to get better, because we're trying to get to our absolute peak for this Saturday. And I think that's been quite remarkable. So I think your question was around the vibe. It feels very, very close. I feel.
Oh, that's good. Just about the tyranny of distance. So, I mean, you're a young father, Tiff's at home, 2 young kids, players, I imagine, across the board, the family would want to be there and be able to support. And I imagine it would be difficult. You guys have been, living out of a suitcase for some time. And then there's the other part of that, which is, Josh Bruce being back here and I'm unable to play. How have you found that, as a club and a team to navigate?
Well, from a personal perspective, I think that's by far and away the hardest part about this entire thing. I mean, to leave my wife and 2 kids on their own in lockdown in Melbourne in the most challenging, probably time. I mean, we were having difficulty and struggling when both of us were there looking after the kids, just with the groundhog nature and the limited way you can entertain kids at that age.
Young parents, young kids.
As you know, and so that's really put my wife under the pump, and that's a really unfair situation for me to put her in, and for that to occur. So that's been quite hard, but I mean, family's been great with helping out, and what Tiff's like. She's an absolute star. She's a weapon, and she's making the best of it, and making that sacrifice so I can chase, the ultimate. So it can't be understated, how important our wives and partners are in terms of giving us the support we need to do what we need to do. So couldn't love her anymore.
And what about Brucey? Has that been tough for the group? I mean, you mentioned how such a tight knit group, and Brucey's been such a big part of the last few years, but particularly this season where he was incredible for 20 weeks. Yeah,
it's brutal. It has been quite hard for the group, and obviously incredibly difficult for Brucey. I mean, every grand final has the stories like his of the hard luck. Stories, the game just doesn't discriminate, and it doesn't. The machine rolls on. It's just the brutal nature of it. But I don't know if you saw the picture of Brucey the other day in at the club helping fill the online orders. Like, how good's that? What a man. He's just been so generous with his mindset and his positivity to the group of how excited he is for all of us. And that's made it easier for us. I mean, we're the ones that, wanted to make him feel better and trying to get around him, but he's been the one getting around us and giving, like, it's just an incredible person. So we're really fortunate that he's probably making it easier for us.
So I'll focus on the positive, because we know the brutal mathematics of team selection means if 2 come in, that 2 come out. Let's just walk on the sunny side. Can you give us an update on Cody and Alex and how they've recovered respectively from the head knock and the hamstring?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure. As I was getting through the sessions yesterday, they both will be both will be available. So obviously Cody was incredibly unlucky with that head knock, and he has been such an important factor. You go to that Essendon game, I reckon he was our best player on the ground.
Yeah, no doubt.
And the way that he brings his energy and his speed and his commitment to defense is just incredible. It's so infectious. It'll be great.
He's flubber.
He does bounce. He can bounce off the ground. He can accelerate.
There is no
hit the deck and accelerate.
that his body is made of the same stuff as mine. I swear to God.
I guarantee it's not. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Not in this world.
And even his mindset. We were talking as well. You're a big fan of Ted Lasso, as I know.
Yeah.
I am as well. He is Danny Rojas. His football is life.
Football is life.
And it's brilliant. It's so infectious. He's a star. So it'll be great to have him available. And Keithy, I think he got through yesterday with his hamstring and ticked what he needed to. So that all looks to be good news, mate.
You've been through this. I haven't been through it. But so when you're preparing for a grand final for the Bulldogs, and so this is a total Bulldog fan question, okay? Yep. And I'm just the one voicing it. Do you find yourself reflecting on the past and the history of a club that's, it's old. This footy club is old, and it includes a whole heap of people and thousands of stories and heartbreak and uplifting stories of inspiration and incredible individuals and turmoil, all that. Do you find yourself ever drifting to that, or is it just like, you know what, that's too big to kind of dip your toe into? You're just like, what's the next session? What's the next moment? What's the next bit of preparation? Or is it a combination of both?
I suppose a little bit. In the lead up to 16, I could definitely feel that. And when we won the prelim against the Giants, I've felt from the supporters and everyone just the gravity of what we'd achieved making the grand final because of our history leading into that. Yeah. But I didn't feel it in a personal sense, I suppose, just because I wasn't aware or around for those multiple preliminary.
You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose being a player at that point and leading into that grand final, I was just focusing on making our own history, and that was playing that game. And it was just a matter of I just need to prepare and be in the best frame of mind possible to play that game moment by moment and not think about anything behind and not think about anything ahead. And that's why I think I had such
very zen. I believe,
but that's how we prepare.
That quote was, I believe Eckhart Tolle beat you to that. It's to be in the moment. But anyway,
just displaying knowledge there, eh? No, good. Good. Just so everybody listening knows, Bob knows everything.
Well, I'm just saying you might not be quoted with that line as much as you sort of had.
Listen, mate, I'm just answering your questions.
It's interesting though, like, because the history is one of those things. It's like you can draw inspiration from it, and it can be nourishing, but it's also like, hang on a second, the baggage of 7 preliminary final loss. Like, what? That's got nothing to do with me.
And that's what I felt. I suppose I felt that because that wasn't my baggage.
No,
I played in one of those prelims, but that was in 2010, and I was I was quite young then, so I wasn't really present, and I was kind of just going
rolling
through,
by the seat of your pants.
Just trying to stay in the team. Then, it was a totally different mindset, and the more leading into this way, and we've had extra thinking time because we've had the extra week. So I have probably leading into this game thought back more than I did, then. But the thing that I keep coming back to was the takeaway from 16 for me that is useful here was that it was just a matter of being in the moment and just trusting what we've done to get to the point that we're in now.
And
that's
that's impressive by you. That's not the 2009 version of Eastern Wood that I know, where a week in a hotel room where you could overthink. You could have crossed over into the kaleidoscope of some kind of psychedelic person never returned. You may not have even been able to play.
Oh, I would have played the game so many times in my head that I would have got out there and just forgot what to do with my hands.
You put your socks on and both hands. Laverne and Shirley just go bang.
Oh God, yeah, it's safe to say we've come a long way there, Bobo. I mean, it's all about growth. We're all about growth here on Barclay Street.
Well, just on Laverne and Shirley though, because casting our mind back, I forget when you tore your hamstring early in the year, but I remember on this podcast and even a couple of our chats privately, and you were not quite broken, but you were as down as I've ever seen you, I reckon, in that little period where when you get injured, and particularly when it's the same injury of one you've had many times, it's like a bonfire of sort of trauma almost in trauma in a football injury sense. Don't want to sort of overplay it, but have you reflected on that sort of little patch this week of how far you've come and how well it's worked out?
Yeah, no, I have. I mean, that's probably as low as I've been for a very, very long time in footy. And mainly because, I mean, I think I did it in round 9 against Port, I reckon it was.
Yeah.
And it was just open field, ping, hammy goes.
Yeah.
And as you've said, like, it's not just the one. Mm-hmm. I'd done 2 in the months preceding that, which so 3 for that year. And that was a long list of the ones I'd done prior to that, which was a very, very long list. And I suppose what made me so down at that point was it was hard to, I suppose, get around or skirt around the idea or the question of, is my body finally done?
Yeah. Football.
Am I finally not up to it anymore in terms of a physical sense? I just can't get to the level I need to at that intensity and not break. And it was so brutal, because for the weeks recovering from that hamstring, that question can't be answered.
Yeah.
Until you get back out there, and the longer until you're out there, the longer it feels like it might be done.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what I was feeling. And that was incredibly sad. But it has to come at some point. I mean, I'm 32, but it doesn't make the brunt of it any more easy to bear, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'm just so, I'm in a bit of shock still. And if going back to that mindset, and to be sitting here where I am now, having a good amount of healthy football under my belt, and feeling that I've got everything that I need physically, and being confident running out on Saturday, not having a single thought about Laverne or Shirley. And as a lot of our listeners had tweeted and reminded me, if they were going to go, it was when I was chasing Charlie in the semi-final.
Yeah, that was the ultimate test.
He just burnt me and made me look silly. If they were going to go, it was when I was leaning forward then. So
unbeknownst to you, we actually had a microphone hooked up to Laverne and Shirley that night, and we've been holding it for grand final week. And I'm just going to play you some audio for at the moment that Charlie Cameron exploded away and accelerated away. This is what Laverne and Shirley were saying. Yeah,
I could hear that coming a mile away.
That's two factory workers from Milwaukee just screaming as loud as they possibly can that they've reached maximum capability.
I almost got more messages text messages after that exact moment than I did when we made the grand final. I reckon I got 15 or 20 from mates and family or listeners of just, I can't believe Laverne and Shirley hung in there.
It wasn't long after we came up with Laverne and Shirley that I immediately regret the whole exercise. I immediately regret it. It was just like, it's like, no, there's too much interest now in these hamstrings. I'm feeling partly.
You knew you'd struck a chord when I pinged it in that round 9 game, and within seconds, I think there were tweets of, was it Laverne or Shirley? Yeah,
straight away I was just like, no, I'm partly responsible for this. I'd like to think that the Barclay Street podcast has helped you in your recovery. I think it's been cathartic for you. We've all grown with you. We've rehabbed with you. We've recovered with you, and now we get to sit back and watch in pride.
And just let Laverne and Shirley shine.
That's it. Just now let it all hang out. Okay, they've done their work. Once more with feeling. Let's a quick footy question, and then we'll just finish off with a bit of reflections for the year, because this will be the last Barclay Street for the year. Certainly last one with me in it. So we'll do a bit of reflecting on maybe a highlight of the year. But so the Demons have taken all before them. Both sides going with incredible momentum. What do you kind of see as the keys? Can you give us any kind of insight into what you see as the biggest challenges for the group ahead of Saturday?
Well, yeah, I think the big part of it's going to be that midfield battle. I mean, we had such an incredible performance in the prelim, and a lot of that was down to how good our boys were inside and the way we were able to get the ball forward and kind of keep territory and put pressure on Port, and that resulted in scores and stifling them. And I mean, that challenge is going to be immense, coming up against the best ruckman in the competition and the other best midfield bar ours. So that battle's going to be enormous. And yeah, I'm really excited, really excited for it.
Oh, we can't wait. It's going to be obviously it's going to be incredible, massive cultural event.
Are you going to be watching at the now that you're a Perth man? Where are you going to be watching from?
At this stage, we'll be.
You're still back in Melbourne.
We'll still be in Melbourne. Yeah, that's
okay.
But and then I think Sunday we head over to WA, the Murphys.
Oh, okay, nice.
So we'll be.
Yeah, are you going to do? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. So we'll be home quarantine from Sunday.
Okay. Are you going to watch like you did in 16, but change it around this time, and instead of having a doggies jumper under your top, you're going to have a Freo jumper?
Oh, that's good by you. Someone write these gags here.
I've been thinking about it all week.
I don't like this new sort of funny, mindful ASMR. I prefer
no, as you know, I only get funny around grand finals. That's it. As you know from
I'll never forget your funniest line of all time.
I get 1 week.
Your funniest line that is not fit for broadcast on the Barclay Street podcast. Yeah, premiership, but not quite. Yeah.
God.
Give me some reflections of this year of the Barclay Street podcast. What have been some of your highlights? 'Cause I've got a couple, but how have you found it?
I've loved it, mate. My highlight is bringing Archie into it. I think
I wrote down Archie Selleck.
Has to be because I think Arch really personifies a lot of what this podcast is about. I mean, it's for fans. It's to enjoy a lighter side. It's not an in-depth footy thing, I suppose. There's elements, so I guess we go into that, but
yeah,
it's a look at the people who make up the club and the diverse and interesting differences that they have. And Archie personifies every bit of that. He's given so freely his time across his life, and been such an interesting character. I mean, I think a lot about what I love about Footscray and what I love about the Western Bulldogs. A lot of when I picture it, it does sort of come back to Arch in that he's so passionate, he's giving, he's a little bit out there, or a lot out there, really.
You're right on the edge.
But he's just lovable. He's so lovable. He's so himself, and so lovable. And yeah, that's probably my favourite part, mate.
Oh man,
what about you?
I couldn't have put it any better than that. I think you've captured something really well there. That I think Archie is our spirit animal here on Barclay Street. He's a man on the inside. He should be a logo. He really should be. If we're going to change the name of the podcast in the coming years from Barclay Street, it should have something to do with Archie Selleck. He does. He straddles the two worlds of, he's the man on the inside, but he represents those of us on the outside. Yeah. Well, so the only other thing I would add to that, mate, is we mentioned the tyranny of distance before. Footy clubs are circles within circles within circles. I loved being on the inner circle with you. You know that. But the wheel turns. And in these sort of strange times, I've loved the chance to just chat with you every week, because our world now and our lives are a little bit different, so we don't get this time. So it's been nice just to hang out with you, mate, because you're a very dear friend of mine. You know that.
You are.
Couldn't be more proud of you, like the way you handled that injury early in the. I know how dark and how heavy that was on your shoulders. I think you've just handled it incredibly well, and we're proud of you. And the team at large. I describe, 2016, I think I said this to you before, I've written about it, but 2016 was like landing on the moon. A premiership for the Bulldogs was so far away and such an unlikely concept. It was like having to land on the moon. And once you and the boys and the club did that in 2016, it was a change of identity. So when you land on the moon, well, okay, where's the next? You've got it. It was, discombobulating. So it's a change of identity. And the very successful clubs are more like mountain climbers. So I feel like what this team's done this year, you've made the transformation from astronauts to mountain climbers just by making the grand final, which I think is a pretty special achievement in itself. Doesn't make the prize any less attractive. We still would love to see a win this Saturday, but it's already a pretty impressive achievement. And as an old Bulldog, I get a certain sense of pride out of that, although, it's kind of a bit removed these days. So thank you, mate.
Thanks for the kind. Thank you both. Thanks for the kind words, mate. A bit unusual to hear them on this podcast in particular, but I do very much appreciate.
I feel like I've given you enough of a hard time.
I do share the sentiment. I mean, you are a hard man to get a hold of. It's like trying to catch cooked spaghetti a lot of the time, but so having an actual weekly set time where you're getting paid, which is really guarantees you're going to be here. So that's what's great. But I absolutely love you, Bobo, and Fremantle have done a very good job in poaching you over there. So, and I'm a bit jealous that you get to reconnect with our old mate Keith, old Matthew Boyd. I am jealous of the fun you guys will have, but it's been great, mate. And if there's any way we can do a joint Fremantle / Dogs mashup.
Oh, I like it.
Hasn't been done before, but look, we could blaze a new trail, Bob.
I'll ask you one simple question, Eason. If you put paint tins of red, white, and blue into one big can and you swirled it all up, what colour do you get, mate?
It's meant to be. Just purple, baby.
So well done to you, mate. Thanks everyone for tuning in every week. We've had an absolute ball. It's a massive indulgence and a privilege for us to get to talk to people within the club, people on the fringes, Bulldogs people. It's all about passion and clan and fun and the serious nature of winning games of footy, and we love every minute of it. Can we just quickly thank you to Seamus Parkinson and Adrian Sedia, who help put this together every week. They really do the hard work. I probably do the hardest work. Then it's Seamus and
I was
Adrian.
waiting for it.
And coming in last, the model, the boring.
Thank you to everybody, but mainly myself. The Bob Murphy special.
Well, if we're cutting up the pie, you got to call it honestly, Easton. I'm not saying I deserve Bevo's medal again this year. I'm not saying that. He can have his own this time. Mate, much love to you and the boys. Go get them. Do us proud. We're right behind you. And once more with seed and Alice, yield to none, my friend.
Thanks a lot. And thanks so much for listening, everyone.